Our next talk is about social youth in the Arab world. And the speaker is the co-founder and business development director of the online project. Please welcome Ramzi Halabi.
Thank you, Hassan. Thanks. Hello. Two things make the youth in the Arab world very special. First is the fact that over 65% of the population in the Arab world are under the age of 25. And the second, which is more significant, is the fact that for the first time in the history of the Arab world, the youth are given the opportunity to express themselves freely through the power of social media, which has disrupted the way they engage with brands, organizations, governments, leaders, and has created a big momentum and a positive momentum of change. What does that mean for us as marketeers, brand managers, decision makers, agencies? It means that we really have to put effort in understanding the mentality and culture of our Arab youth, and we should avoid relying on reports that are global reports related to our youth or related to youth in general for us to decide on how we engage with the youth, but rather do our own research and homework and customized research related to our youth to understand the differences between the habits of our youth and other youths in different markets. And it's by understanding these differences that we really can succeed in the activations and engagements that we launch. I want to refer to a study that was, or a report that was released by a US-based company called IStrategy Labs recently. Some of you might be aware of it, which highlighted a big migration of youth fans in the States from Facebook to more recent platforms like Snapchat, Instagram, and what have you. And what the report highlights is a big shift and migration of fans from the age group of 13 to 75. It's showing that there's a drop of 25 or over 25% in that segment, and another drop within the segment of 18 to 24. So this caused a lot of PR hype in the media, where the issue of Facebook being a key platform amongst the youth and teen in the US was actually questioned. And at the online project, we raised the question whether this applies to Arab youth as the same pattern, and we decided to replicate the same study. And we used the same methodology and same inputs, but rather just focusing on the Arab youth to really understand if the same patterns apply or not. And there were some interesting differences and insights. So firstly, the drop within the age group of 13 to 17 was not or nowhere as aggressive as it was in the US-based study. And also, instead of a decrease within the age group of 18 to 24, we saw and we realized an aggressive increase in Facebook adoption amongst the youth in the Middle East. Another key interesting insight is the fact that some key emerging markets within the MENA region are currently experiencing very aggressive adoption of Facebook. The markets that are witnessing that are the likes of Iraq, Oman, Egypt. So basically, we can summarize this by saying that Facebook remains to be a key platform amongst the youth in the Middle East. And no, Facebook did not pay me to say this. But the key point here to highlight is the fact that it's still a key platform amongst the youth. But also what is really important is what we do with this platform and what kind of content and engagement we share with the youth in the Arab world, because they are becoming much more exposed, and also they are very much more savvy in terms of how they interact with brands and your activations. So it's really the quality of the content and engagement that matters. We took things a step further. We decided to really conduct a survey and try to understand where youth are spending their time in the Arab world. And so we asked them one very basic question: which of the following social media platforms do you use the most? And we focused on a couple of key markets. And as this survey result indicates, Facebook in Egypt is still one of the highly most adopted and used platforms. compared to YouTube at just above 10% and Twitter at 10%. So in Egypt, again, there is an extreme adoption of Facebook utilization amongst the youth. Moving on to the KSA situation is slightly different, but still 90% of the youth voted for Facebook as their most utilized platform, then 30% at Twitter, and 40% YouTube consumption in the KSA amongst youth, with new platforms picking up like Instagram, and less with Snapchat and Kik and Pinterest and other platforms. Kuwaiti youth, somewhat of a different result. Facebook, again, extremely big. Vine is actually quite high. Pinterest was surprisingly high as a result. Obviously, YouTube at a bit over 30%. Instagram quite high in terms of recent adoption and picking up as a platform. UAE, quite different, a more mature market. Facebook, lower in terms of adoption amongst youth, but still quite high. YouTube, surprisingly very high in terms of adoption amongst the youth at 50%, Twitter at 50%, Instagram really aggressive in terms of the pickup, which is at above 30%, and then you have other platforms like Snapchat at 25% and Vine. Obviously, there are a few limitations here when we consider these surveys and reports. The first is the fact that we only used Facebook advertising to really gain and attract people to fill out these surveys. The second being the fact that the sample size could have been much bigger to compare with more in-depth surveys. And the third is the fact that obviously this is a quantitative study, so it does not reflect sometimes when you have an audience that is of a niche background that you want to target on Instagram, maybe the profile, even though the quantity of the users in that market are not as big, but maybe the profile of these users is more suitable for your brand. Now on to some tips on how you should, or how we recommend you can engage with Arab youth. Basically, tip number one is really try to spot what's trending and what's relevant to the Arab youth. A couple of examples that we've compiled that we really like was the McDonald's selfie song, really went viral. The Nescafe Arabia tweet on the selfie song was also a very powerful tweet that picked up very positive traction. Again, what is required from us to be able to do that is to have the ability to spot a trend and take action immediately to publish real-time content, which is not an easy thing to do. Another example is the way Mobile imitated the Happy Farrell song and got really good number of views. The second tip I would share with you and recommend is to involve your audience in the engagements that you launch. Lay's Arabia is currently promoting this campaign, and it's totally based on including the audience as part of the campaign. The guys from U-Turn in Saudi, one of my favorite companies, have actually asked their fans to imitate a funny video clip that is quite famous, and in return the prize was to offer them free tickets to a comedy show. The guys from Tilfaz did a really interesting example as well on engaging their audience by asking them to create a design on their behalf, and basically the prize was that they would follow only the winner on Instagram and unfollow everyone else, which highlighted the power of social currency at its best. And the third example would be to really look for popular events that are relevant to our youth. An example in Egypt obviously was the Egyptian elections. Cheesy yes, salty no, salty no. Just a nice interaction between Cheetos Arabia and Lay's Arabia, which created amazing positive traction. And finally, other examples like Champions League with Mobile and Nescafe Arabia with the Oscars. So in summary, just quick recommendations. Do your research on the youth audience in the Arab world, because the culture is different, the habits are really different, and it's by understanding these habits that we will be empowered to really succeed in the engagements, and also engage with them and take action in a timely manner so that you can really get value out of your interactions with the youth.